So I've had this 4 shaft table loom for probably close to 4 years, and I've only just used the warp that was on it when I bought it secondhand. I find the shafts kind of difficult to use. So today I want to warp up this table loom and try to weave a simple project on it to see if I want to keep this loom or if it needs to get out of my home. So let's go see what the verdict is. Here's the culprit. I hang it up on the wall from a dowel. So it's really hard to get on and off the wall. That's the witch's hat I hand sewed for last Halloween, just hanging up there. So let's get that off the wall. Honestly though, if you don't have a craft room or storage space or a closet that looks like this, are you even a crafter? One hook, 2 hooks. Okay, that went a lot better than last time. Okay, let's talk about the features a little bit. So at the front, I do have an apron bar. I have tied up everything because I hang it on the wall and I don't want all these little bits flopping around everywhere. Slip that back on. So a nice apron bar on the front. And then we've got a beater here with a reed. This is, I believe, a 15 inch per inch reed that came with it. Looks quite old. Some of the tape on it has, kind of worn off over time, but it works. It's in decent shape. The tag on it says that it's an Andrews and make from South Carolina. Yeah, it's nice. It's stainless steel and it's a 15 inch per inch. So it's pretty nice. Oops. Okay, so the shafts are string Heddles. I feel like they're gonna be like original to the loom. And then they've got this like elastic stuff on it and they're hooked down there. So, I mean, it works fine, but I found it difficult to use once it was warped up. And I'm interested to see if I fix the warp on it, if it's easier to use. So four shafts, it probably would work better too if these bits weren't all tangled up as well. There, and then a back apron bar. So I don't know the make and model of the loom itself. I've never seen or found any sort of maker's marks on it. I think I was told that it was handmade, which could very well be possible, but it's well made. It's heavy, it's sturdy, it doesn't, it's not flimsy at all when I move it around. And overall, I want to like it. And I thought it would be an accessible thing for me to be able to weave 4 shaft patterns like twills on it. So I do want to give it a shot. I think the weaving width on it is fairly wide. It's about, I want to say 20 inches. I had a ruler. Yeah, I want to say the weaving width on it is around 20 inches. So if I go here, that's 18. And then that's another almost 3 inches. So about 21, but probably comfortably 20 inches in width. So what I'm thinking to do today is to weave up a set of kitchen towels in either plain weave or a simple twill. So let me grab one of the towels that I might want to use as a sample for this. So here's one of the kitchen towels that I have. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get as fine of a weave as this, but I want to use this for the width and the length on it. And I want to say that this is probably about 18 inches. So here's one of the kitchen towels that I have. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get as fine of a weave as this, but I want to use this for the width and the length on it. And I want to say that this is probably about 18 inches. Yeah, that's about 18 inches, but it's hemmed on the side. And I don't think that I'll have to do that since I'll have selvages on either side. So 18 inches seems fine. And then the overall length, I will fold it in half. Yeah, that's about 18 inches, but it's hemmed on the side. And I don't think that I'll have to do that since I'll have selvages on either side. So 18 inches seems fine. And then the overall length, I will fold it in half. And I want to say it's probably 24 inches long. So this is about 12. So yeah, if I double that, that's 24 inches. And then this has two folded over hems on it. And each hem is about a half an inch. So add an inch. So on each side. So this is 24 inches, add an inch on each side. That's 26 inches weaving length. Now I want to make two plus waist on either end and space in between. And then this one is a twill. I can't quite tell what kind of twill. It might be a 2-1 twill. I think I'll probably just do a basic 3-1 twill on it. And obviously, again, I'm not going to get this fine. I think this is like 60 inch per inch. Mine's only going to be 15, but I think it'll make a fine towel. So here are the two yarns that I'm thinking of using for this project. This is a mercerized cotton I picked up used because, or secondhand, it was dirty. It's got all these spots on it. But underneath that first layer is some really nice white cotton. I've been using this for drive bands on my spinning wheel, and I think I got more than enough to do this project. And I've also got some boucle cotton that I picked up from a stash sale. It's vintage for sure. It's Rose Mills.
Oh, I'm sorry, supply.
So here's my warping board. It came, well, when I bought it used, it came with the string that had already marked off yardages. So that's 1 yard, that's 2 yards, and then 3 yards there. So, well, it said 2 1/4, but I think I'll go ahead and do 2 1/2. So folding that in half, that's about 2 1/2 yards. So I'm going to try to figure out how much would give me 2 1/2 yards here. Let's see. It'd be roughly this peg down here. I don't have a place to hang this up, so I'm just going to do it on the floor here. So that's 2 1/2 yards. So that would be my path right there. So let me get my cone and I'll start doing 300. I have no idea in that last shot at what point it went to like 3x zoom. So I don't know how much footage I actually got. I'm glad I'm wearing a dress, but it's chopstick time. Keep losing count. 15 should not be that hard to count to, but somehow I just forget to actually count as I go over the cross here. Something I don't think I've seen in all the warping videos I've seen, like taking sections of the warp off the board. And I'm trying to talk about this as I count here. Forgive me, 2, 4, 6, 8. So it's like, I imagine it has to be a thing, right? But I don't think I've seen anybody in videos like having to take, like warp up only part of their warp and then take it off the board and do another one. I feel like you could lose tension doing that. I mean, but I've got to imagine people do that. I've never taken a weaving class, but I was in Girl Scouts and an honorary Boy Scout. I know some knots, and that's just what I use. So this one I used a half hitch just to keep the tension there. And then up here, I'm going to keep all my ends that I've meticulously counted out and just go over under. This boucle yarn, I just grabbed some scrap off of it, and it's actually pretty fine. I'm going to be very interested to see how this weaves up. I wasn't really shooting for anything, so I don't care to like sample, and it's not like I was shooting for something intentional. This is just it's very much a YOLO project. Okay, here are my ends. And now I need to tie the cross. All right, now I'm going to take the warp off with lots of prayers that it stays together. I think I did a good enough job tying it off. For some reason, I don't want to let go of that cross. I should just trust the process. So it's just tying up my second half of my warp, and I realized I might have tied up my first one incorrectly. I need to go take a look. I tied it across here, but that doesn't separate the cross here or here. So I'm hoping, I know I definitely tied it here, and I tied it here, but it did not tie here. And I don't know that the second one is important. I think you just need the one. So I'm hoping I can go back to my other warp, and I think it's fine. I need to go check. But I tied it here, and I tied it here. So I should be okay, right? So I was just getting ready to pull this second half of my warp off the loom, and I realized I need to add 2 extra ends for floating selvages. So I'm going to tie another 2 on here. So I don't have leaf sticks or the apron rod for back beam, whatever you want to call it, to tie onto. So I've got 2 dowels here. I'm going to measure. I'm going to cut these down. I had bought these to make spindles, but I need them now, so I think I'll make a mark here and go cut them in the garage. While I was down in the garage, I thought I'd check my Mighty Wolf real quick, and I'm glad I did because it had leaf sticks and the back beam, or whatever it's called, the apron rod. I don't know. That one is definitely too long, but I can, I think, use my leaf sticks, even if they're too long. Okay, so I'm getting close. The only other thing I don't have is a rattle. So I might want to go check my peg loom, see if that'll work. I have my peg loom. I'm just measuring the spacing. It's about 3/4 on center. So I think I should be able to measure out the appropriate number of ends per inch on this. So just going to get it. By the way, I've never used this peg loom to make an actual peg loom project. So if that's something you guys would like to see, definitely let me know. My thinking is to make up some rugs for my new house. But I don't have a good way to spin jumbo yarn. I might be able to do it on my e-spinner or with my Ashford's jumbo bobbin, but it won't be like true, like the thick rug yarn that you see. Okay, so let me see what I did with my dowel that I just cut. And I've got a couple of ends on here that I tied on at the beginning, and then the 2 that I added at the end. So I want to make sure I get those on the right way. All right, now I'm going to come back here and make sure I get my leaf sticks through the cross. Okay, so I think what's next, if I remember correctly, is that we tie the back beam onto the apron rod. I think I got something twisted up there. This cord on here feels really old. It's kind of gross feeling. Then I think it comes over and then I tie that on like that. So I need something to tie onto. I got By the way, this is so not a tutorial. This is literally me just showing you like my experiments, like, and hopefully sharing like a creative process with you guys. So definitely do not take this as like a tutorial. And if anything, I would imagine that many of you guys have a lot more experience and can offer lots of suggestions and advice in the comments. And I would really appreciate it if you guys do. I do read all of them. I try to like respond to every single one, and I think I do a pretty good job on that. Oh my God, my least stick. I'm so glad I didn't like remember to cut this other tie. So, oh Jesus Christ. All right, so that's half. All right, that's half. This is why they tell you to tie these things on, right? Well, that's secure right now, so I'm going to, I don't know, see if I can. Okay, I think I mostly got it. There might be a couple that I missed or whatever. All right, so that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but oh my God, I need to tie these. Rookie mistake, right? I think after that I need a snack. So I've had a little bit of lunch now. I'm a little bit more calmed down after nearly losing my cross. I think I'm a little more skittish now, but I'm gonna go ahead and I believe the next step is now winding on the warp. So I did calculate out how many ends per peg I needed to separate out to get my weaving width. So start somewhere in the center here. I don't think it terribly matters. All right, so this is the half that I was less confident about when I lost my least sticks, and I can already tell there's a couple of threads in there that are not where they should be. And so we're going to do our best here to just get everything in its right place, roughly. Not that I went back and checked a tutorial, but I went ahead and moved my rattle closer to the back beam to see if I could spread out the warp a little bit. And I'm realizing, not that I'm realizing anything actually, but I think if I remember the tutorial right, that I should be done with the least sticks now, and I should be able to warp on, but I think I want to pull the warps through the sheds now without pulling it out and through the rattle. I probably should have done this to begin with. Like each movement like this, I feel could like really mess things up. Also realizing like I don't have a hole in the end of my dowel, so I want to be very careful that I'm not like pulling it off of there. Maybe I saw someone and I had put rubber bands on the ends of this one. And so I'm wondering if I should just go ahead and do that to try to keep the warp from sliding off the ends. Okay, I rewatched the video that I'd been using, and she kept the least sticks on for a little while. So I'll go ahead and do that, but I'm just going to keep kind of trying to straighten out my warp from where It got a little bit messed up so that it winds on the correct width here without too much trouble. And then I'm almost to where the warp will start. So I will get my papers. And so these are the papers that came with the loom. It's just 2 manila folders. I'm going to put them side by side in the back here. Watching a tutorial. I'll link the one that I'm watching down below. But the next step she does is to tie overhand knots about every inch. Since my spacing on my rattle, aka peg loom, is about every 1/4 inch, then I'll just do that. I'm not going to be bothered. All right, I got my knots all made up, which means that I can take my peg loom off. So I'm just going to pull all the pegs first. All right, I got my sling hook. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 and just repeat that across. So as I'm warping this up, I decided to double count the heddles I have. And there's actually about 50 heddles per shaft, which means that I have about 200 heddles total, and I have 300 ends. So I'm not going to have enough heddles. One of them did come off, and I was like trying to figure out if they're a particular brand or if they might be homemade. I might post to like Instagram or something and see if someone might recognize these. So I picked up this pin loom at Goodwill for $3 the other day. I thought I would see if it could be used to make some more string heddles, kind of like a heddle jig, maybe is my response at the moment. So if I show you the top half fits pretty well on all but 3 of the pins. And then the bottom half, I can kind of make work with 4 pins, but I have to be careful about which pins I space them over. It's like the 4 first pins in a knot and then go down to the second to last grouping of pins. So I want to see if I can perhaps make some of these heddles. I've got a cone of dirty size 10 cotton. Again, I thrifted this, so I am going to try my hand at this. Let's see how it goes. And there we go. A replica string heddle. I think the weight is a little bit finer than the old one. I think I got up my knots a little bit off, but I feel like that's pretty close. It's much later at night. I'm finally getting to where I missed some of the sections in my cross when I put my leaf sticks back in, so can kind of see that. But also I'm getting down to the last of the heddles that I had original to this loom, so I definitely need to make more. I think I counted like up to like 100, so it's going to take a little longer to warp this than I originally planned. So I've gotten another 40 heddles tied up. I put 10 on the loom already, so I'm about halfway done with all the heddles I need to tie up. As I started making some of these later ones, I realized I should probably start making the eye a little bit wider. So I started doing surgeon's knots instead of just basic square knots on the heddle. So I'm hoping that'll make it a little easier for me to tie, or sorry, to slay. So I'm gonna put these on. This should get me like another 2.5 inches of weaving width across and see how this is working. So I had to untie the ends of my shafts here to get the heddles on. And I do kind of have to be a little bit careful getting them on so that they're not twisted or crossing each other. So I'm gonna get them slipped onto my finger. Tying these up has been pretty fiddly, and it's taking quite a while. Like wishing I did. I mean, obviously I wish I didn't have to do this, but obviously I'm doing it anyway. So I don't know. I had the thought, it's like, well, if I kept the loom and did this again, then I'm like, maybe I'll make up a jig, but at the same time, I don't know if I would do it again. The only reason I would need to at this point is if I wanted to have more ends per inch. And at that point, maybe it would make more sense for me to be doing it on my Mighty Wolf. So, jury is still out. This footage is not going to be very exciting, obviously. It's just me trying to straighten out these heddles and talking over it, but showing you the fiddliness of this as I try to get it on. Right, and then shaft 2 and 3 is a little harder to reach. So like I kind of have to like move those out of the way and then get into here. I'm dropping heddles. All right, I used up those heddles, all but, 5 of them. And I've got about 56 ends here. So I need to make about 50 more heddles, 51 or 2. I might make a couple extra. I did have one that was like slightly longer, so I tossed it out just to make sure I could get like clean sheds as I'm weaving. So we're getting there. I just finished slaying all of the heddles. It took so long, but I'm happy that it's done. I'm a little nervous that my heddles are a little bit longer on this end, and I'm hoping that doesn't cause an issue. So I need to just double, I don't know, I'm just hoping that it doesn't cause an issue with creating a clean shed. But I think it's time I can go ahead and start slaying the reed and tying on the front apron bar. I think I'm gonna just go ahead and start all the way in the slot on the right here. I'm actually not even entirely sure how many slots I have. I'm hoping in 15 EPI read that I have the full width that I was calculating. So if I get to the end and I'm out of slots, actually I think I might start on the left then. So I got the weaving over the weekend and I didn't have a chance to really record anything. So I got about I want to say about 10 inches woven up so far. And I have mixed feelings about it. I think the final product is going to look pretty good, even though there is definitely one mistake in the warp. But I'm really having problems with the tension. It's really tight on this end, but really loose on this end. And so it's being a little wonky. And I guess I don't really understand why at this point. When I tied on, I felt like the tension was really good and even all the way across. But as soon as I winded on a little bit, it really loosened up. And so that's a little bit of a problem. I like working through it. It's just making me a little bit slower than I'd like, because if I don't have good enough tension, then I'm not getting a clean shed. So it's just a little wonky, and then it causes the warp, the exposed warp, to be a bit looser on this side than this side. So I don't love that either. But I did switch to this vintage boat shuttle. I think that's what it's called, a boat shuttle. And it's working pretty well. I can show you if I can remember what pick I'm on. I think I just finished a whole repeat. So I'll lift up my first shaft, lift up my floating selvage, throw that across. It's a little, the boat shuttle itself is not in the greatest condition. I think I have others, but I didn't feel like going downstairs into the garage to fish them out of my storage boxes. So beat that down pretty good. And then I'll do pick number 2. Show you guys. I have found if I have the beater all the way back, I have enough height here to be able to throw it all the way across. And sometimes when I throw it across like that, if I don't have enough thread out, this will bind up, and so it won't pull, and then it pull on the selvages, and that's a lot of fun. So then beat it. And then somehow I do tend to, like, quite often just miss my selvage for some reason. Like, I'll lift it up, but then not enough to get the shuttle underneath it. So these are things that, you know, I'm just learning as I go. So this is my first like real project on this loom. So it's just like learning the quirks of the loom, learning how to weave on string heddles, learning how to weave on a table loom. And I just don't know if I love this experience. I find it really hard to get comfortable weaving. So I either have to stand, which I'm doing now, or weave or put it on the floor and weave in the floor like a little gremlin. And last night my husband was laughing at me. He said, like, I would sit there and weave, and then Lady Gray would come up and try to start chewing on these. In fact, these are like coming untied. And so I'd keep like swatting her away, and she would just like sneak and slug her way back. And he was just laughing at me. And he was like, I should get a video. And I'm like, you should. That would be funny content for this video. But then he didn't. He didn't offer it up. I'm sure it'll happen again if I weave in the floor in front of the TV again tonight. I guess that's one nice thing about this. Like, I can move it around. So I'm not stuck sitting at a larger loom. But I just like, it's just not very comfortable, to be honest. A couple other thoughts while I weave. I'm pretty sure this warp thread that I used is maybe slightly too thick for a 15 in per inch reed. I think the fabric looks quite nice, but I think the threads are sticking together and it's very tight in between the reeds. I think it's just slightly too thick. You guys can tell me what you think. I also think that kind of, I think that causes some issues with the tension as well. So some of these things are not like issues with this loom itself. It's, you know, my decisions that I've made, how I've done things, you know, how I tied the warp and all of that. So I can't necessarily say the issues I'm having are because of this loom. It's not the loom's fault, it's my fault. But I think if I were trying to make this decision to keep this loom or not myself, I feel like I might need to compare it against my Mighty Wolf and see if I just find the overall weaving experience more enjoyable with my Mighty Wolf over this one, just assuming the same level of skill and maybe not these same issues, because I always try to learn from my mistakes, but similar issues. Like, there always be issues or mistakes or difficulties you face with every single project you might encounter. I don't know if that was a complete sentence. I feel a little bit tired and brain dead today. Doing a little mindless, well, I won't say mindless. This is not mindless, but doing a little relaxing weaving can definitely maybe help with my executive function capabilities today. I'm weaving over lunchtime here, so I probably need to actually eat some lunch. Again, feeling a little dumb, guys. Like, so this is a new to me boat shuttle, right? And I've never been able to use one while weaving before. And something reminded me of a story where girls were sucking the warp thread through their shuttle, and there's something about it, like, you know, causing them lung cancer or something. But I was like wondering, it's like, what the slot is for. Is it am I supposed to thread the thread through here? And then that would keep the bobbin in place a little bit better so that it doesn't like pop out and get stuck. Well, I feel a little dumb. I think I'll try that next time I wind the shuttle. So I'm in the floor now because I have finished my first towel. And before I start the second one, I want to see if I can correct some of the issues I've had with the tension on my warp. So I think what has happened is that I just used some pieces of cardboard, strips of cardboard, and I think it caused, when I was winding on the warp, for the warp to wind on unevenly. And so I know it would be better to use paper. I was just having difficulty with this paper that I have, trying to get it wound on. But now that it's only, maybe another yard or two to wind on, what I want to try to do is unwind it, use my peg loom to keep the spacing on the warp adequate, and then try to rewind it on with just the paper and see if that helps, or if it just creates like a huge mess and I'm completely SOL. If you're someone that's chronically online, I feel like you could probably understand where I'm coming from here, and that, people like to consume media on the internet, and usually they have an opinion about it. And I think we've gotten used to lately assuming that everything's been reposted, or that there's so many comments that the original creator can't possibly read all of them. And that's not necessarily true. I think there's quite a few people that are posting content online that do still read every comment, or they read comments about themselves on, I don't know, media that someone else has posted about them. And while I agree that there is such a thing as free speech and that people are entitled to their opinion, I don't believe that it's acceptable for people to just be mean on the internet. Like, if you're going to comment on something because somebody's doing something incorrectly, or at least a way that you feel is different, I think it's totally helpful and valid to say, have you considered doing it X, Y, or Z? Or have you thought about trying X, Y, or Z? Or sharing a personal experience saying, I did something this way. I don't think that it's okay to say something like, oh, what an idiot, or you shouldn't bother posting online if you aren't an expert, things like that. And I see that quite often on Instagram or Threads or YouTube, is people saying things like, why bother posting if you aren't an expert in a subject matter? Or why bother sharing something on the internet if you aren't a professional doing it? And then making fun of people for trying or experimenting with things. And I think that's just not cool. And I do think that the fiber arts community is a very engaging and welcoming and enabling type of community, but I do also see people being unkind, and I just don't think that that's acceptable. If you wouldn't say something to somebody in real life, then don't say it on the internet. But also, maybe some of these people are the type of people that would say something in real life, and they're just assholes. Maybe they're just not kind people in general. I will say, I've not experienced this firsthand. No one's been unkind to me on the internet so far, but I will say that I worry about it, and sometimes I wonder, should I bother posting something? What if somebody thinks that I'm being an idiot? And I think especially in things like I'm doing today, trying to fix a warp that I obviously messed up. But that might say a little bit something about my personality too. Like, I wouldn't consider myself a perfectionist in the sense that everything I do has to be perfect, but I have a tendency to think that I need other people to think I'm perfect. Otherwise, you know, they won't like me as a person, or they won't like my content and judge me for it. So I don't know, it's something I struggle with. I don't know if you guys might sympathize or empathize with that perspective. If you do, I'm very open and interested in hearing your thoughts or opinions on the matter. And again, everyone just trying to be kind. I originally intended to have this video posted today. So this is Thursday, May 21st, I think. But as you can see, it's taken me longer than I expected. And I also didn't work on it as much the past few days because I knew I needed to do something about this warp tension. And so, yeah, I just didn't make as much progress as I needed to. And then I haven't finished filming, obviously, so I couldn't get editing done in time to post today, obviously. So I thought it would be best that I take the extra time for my mental health, my anxiety's been a little bit high lately. I applied for a promotion at work and I had that job interview yesterday. So I'm just like riding this like adrenaline high or something, or cortisol high at the moment. So I just thought it would be best for me to take the extra time, enjoy my slow crafting here, and really hopefully get a video that you guys really enjoy watching. All right, I got my warp retied back on. I think now I can go ahead and try to wind it back on. Okay, here's the issue I'm running into. What I realized is that I've had enough draw in on my first towel that as I tighten the warp, the selvages tighten up the ends of the weaving. These warp threads tighten up first because that's, the shortest path, that's the straight line. And then the middle warp threads are pretty loose. And so I'm trying to figure out if there's a way where I can spread out this towel. I mean, I don't have any sort of like spanner device of any sort, but I'm wondering if I can like fashion one. I'm not entirely sure. I need to think about it. But I think if I can stretch the end of this towel out a little bit more, then I can reclaim that full weaving width and get my warp to be a little bit better tensioned. Well, as you can probably see, this did not work very well. Do I think that helped? No. No, in fact, I think it might have made it worse. I don't know that the tension's any worse than what it was before. And in fact, I might have regained some of my weaving width, especially after I do a row of twining. Do I think it was worth it? Maybe not. But I guess I learned some things, and we'll just try to get the second towel woven up and see if it even looks good.
He gets a pirate ship.
A pirate ship?
Yeah. It has that. Make it keep going.
Okay, the kiddo is homesick today, so I'm not able to do a lot of recording, but I just finished up weaving the second towel. I really am not sure how long this towel will be. It's probably going to be short of the 26 inches that I did for the first towel, but we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and hem stitch. But one thing I noticed is, that I thought about as this is that I could have reduced some of my weaving waste at the back if I had tied onto a separate bar and then tied that onto the back apron bar. or the back beam. But as it is, I probably have like 2 feet of waste on the back of the loom. So I guess that's it for filming at the moment. Alright, I got my towels off the loom, washed and dried in the dryer. And now what I want to do is kind of get them ironed out and start trimming up the edges to hem them. Might not get the cleanest selvages here or the cleanest hems, but we're going to see if I want to hand sew the hems or if I want to machine sew them. I think I'll go ahead and cut these two apart. I'm not going to cut on my nice kitchen towel. And I'm going to use my ruler and my rotary cutter to do that. But I don't want, it's not, the fabric itself is just not going to be straight. So we'll see. Well, it would work better if I took the cover off my rotary cutter. Like that's a huge draw, actually it's 15 because it started on one, so 15 inches wide, 20 inches long when I was shooting for 18 and 24, and I think I wove 20 and 26. So a lot of shrinkage and a lot of draw in on this one. I was reading in online forums, some people had recommended weaving the ends of each towel with a smaller thread to reduce bulk when doing the hem. And I think at the time I was like, that's a great idea, but I don't want to bother. I think I'd already started weaving the first towel. But I think that is something, if I make more kitchen towels in the future, which I definitely plan on it, it's something I think I will go ahead and do. Because the hems do seem to get pretty bulky. I guess I need to wrap up this video. I need to make dinner and I feel like I'm coming down with whatever my son has had today while he's been homesick. It's been a busy couple of weeks. I think I mentioned earlier in the video that I had been interviewing for a promotion at work, and the good news is I've been offered the promotion, but that also means that work might be getting a little busier for a while. So to wrap up this video, I want to show you guys my finished towels. I'm quite happy with how the towels themselves turned out. It's really surprising to me how the fabric really changed coming off the loom and getting washed. I know the blocking magic of knitting, I've even blocked or wet finished some towels before, but this particular combination of weft and warp really shrunk up a lot. It tightened up, and the fabric is still wonderfully drapey. And I think the texture really came out very well after the wash. I think in the future, I think I'll do some thinner yarn to finish the ends of the towels to make hems a little bit neater. And I also need to practice my sewing skills, getting to know that machine a little bit better. Overall, then the weaving, definitely need some practice on trying to prevent draw in. The shrinkage rate on these towels was about 20%. That's not all true shrinkage. Some of that is at one end. My draw in was a little more so other. So that'll just come with practice. I haven't done a whole lot of weaving. So definitely if you guys have recommendations, YouTube videos to check out. I don't necessarily have the time to take classes at the moment, but when I do, I've got a few places in mind and a few classes I do want to try out. Ultimately though, the question in this video is, or was, do I want to keep that loom or do I want to sell it? I think I'm going to sell it. The issues that I had with some of the weaving were just my skill level with weaving, and that'll take some practice. But ultimately, I have realized that I have avoided that particular loom for so long because it's not been an enjoyable experience working on it. The warping process went fairly well. The weaving process went fairly well, but what I really struggled with was reaching over that loom, lifting the heddles was slow and cumbersome, and it made my back ache. So I think with that, I think I need to realize that this particular loom is just not right for me. Hey everyone, Editing Stacy here. So something happened with that outro that I originally recorded, that in the middle of my monologue, the zoom like set to like 2 or 3x, and so all you could see was like my mouth. I've like overlaid other video on top of some of that already, so sorry. This video is already getting like way out of hand lengthwise, and I'm trying to trim it down. But all in all, if you're still with me here at 45 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever this video ends up being, I hope you'll consider subscribing, leaving a comment down below, just sharing your experiences. And with that, I will see you guys next time. Bye.